Let me ask you something simple. What makes a human being good? Not successful, not intelligent, not wealthy, not even healthy. Good. Think about it for a moment. Because that one question, that deceptively simple question, sits at the very heart of everything we're going to discuss on this channel. And today, we begin from the absolute beginning. What is science? What is spirituality? And why, in the year we live in, do we desperately need to understand both? Let's go. Let's start with science. And I want to do this properly. Not the textbook one-liner, but a real understanding. The word science comes from the Latin scientia, which simply means knowledge. But not just any knowledge, a very specific kind of knowledge. Science is humanity's most powerful and reliable method for understanding the external observable world. Here's what makes it extraordinary. Science doesn't care what you believe. It doesn't care about your culture, your intuition, your feelings, or your authority. It cares about one thing only: what can be observed, tested, measured, and repeated. That's it. That is the engine. You form a hypothesis, an educated guess. You design an experiment. You collect data. You test it again and again. And if the results hold under the same conditions, regardless of who is doing the experiment, in India, in Germany, in Brazil, then you have discovered something real about the universe. That method, that beautiful, rigorous, humble method, has given us everything. It gave us germ theory, which means we now understand that invisible microorganisms cause disease. And that knowledge alone has saved hundreds of millions of lives. Before that discovery, people died of infections that today we treat in a single course of antibiotics. Children died, mothers died in childbirth, entire populations were wiped out by plagues we now have vaccines against. Science gave us electricity, the understanding of electromagnetic fields that now powers every device you've ever touched. It gave us the internet, the very platform through which you're watching this. It gave us MRI machines that can see inside your brain without touching you. It gave us spacecraft that have left our solar system. The achievements of science are, without exaggeration, the most remarkable intellectual accomplishments in human history. And I say all of this as someone who works in science and technology professionally. I have deep, genuine respect for this enterprise. Science, done well, is one of the most noble things human beings have ever done. But, and this is a very important but, science by design studies the external world. It studies matter, energy, forces, biological systems, chemical reactions, the mechanics of how things work. It was never designed, it was never even intended to answer a different set of questions. Questions like, why does any of this matter? What should I do with this knowledge? What kind of person should I be? That gap, that enormous civilization-defining gap, is where spirituality lives. Now, spirituality. This word makes a lot of people uncomfortable, especially scientifically minded people. And I understand why. Because the word has been stretched, distorted, commercialized, and weaponized in so many directions that it barely means anything anymore. So let me give you the cleanest definition I can. Spirituality is the systematic exploration of the inner world, of consciousness, of the self, of meaning, of the deepest nature of human experience. Where science asks, how does this work? Spirituality asks, who is asking? Who is experiencing? Why am I here? What is the self? Different traditions have approached these questions in different ways. Vedanta, one of the most sophisticated philosophical systems ever developed, approaches it through deep inquiry into the nature of consciousness and the self. Buddhism approaches it through mindfulness, awareness, and the dissolution of ego. Sufism through love and surrender. Taoism through harmony with the natural flow of existence. The methods vary, the language varies, but the direction of inquiry is the same: inward. And here's something critical to understand. Spirituality, at its core, is not about blind faith. It is not about superstition. The greatest spiritual traditions in history were built by people who were, in every meaningful sense, scientists of the inner world. They observed, they experimented on themselves, they developed frameworks, they tested conclusions through practice. The difference is the laboratory. In science, the lab is external, instruments, telescopes, colliders. In spirituality, the lab is you, your own awareness, your own experience. Now let me be very direct about something. Science has saved millions of lives. That is not up for debate. No rational person should be anti-science. Period. But here is what science alone cannot do. Science cannot teach you why you should care about the millions of lives it saves. Science can explain the neurological mechanism of empathy. It can show you which mirror neurons fire when you see someone in pain, how the brain processes emotional contagion, why evolutionary biology might have selected for cooperative behavior. Fascinating, important, true. But it cannot answer the question, why should I be kind when being cruel would benefit me more? That is not a scientific question. That is a moral question, a spiritual question, and no equation, however elegant, can resolve it. And here's the uncomfortable reality. You can be one of the greatest scientific minds of your century, but without values, your name can end up associated with places like Epstein Island. Jokes apart, intelligence without values can leave the human empty inside. By the way, this is not just theoretical. History is full of highly educated, highly intelligent people who did monstrous things because their development was entirely external and never internal. Science advances knowledge. Spirituality advances the person who holds that knowledge. Both are necessary. Science can build tremendous things, which spirituality alone can't even think. On the other hand, spirituality adds value on those inventions. When I talk with friends on this topic, I always give example of nuclear fission and fusion. Only science can develop these, no doubt. But spirituality can help these technologies to be used only for electric plants or medical uses, like places never to kill anyone. Now, historically, the job of transmitting values, meaning, and inner wisdom fell to religion. And to be fair, religion at its best did this beautifully. The great religious traditions carried profound spiritual truths across millennia. They built communities. They gave people frameworks for ethical living. They asked the deepest questions and embedded the answers in stories, rituals, and practices that even ordinary people could access. But religion also, in many cases, became something else. It became authoritative. It became don't ask, just believe. It became hierarchical, political, and in many instances, deeply corrupt. It attached profound spiritual truths to unscientific cosmologies and then demanded you accept both as a package deal. And when science came along and dismantled the cosmology, the flat earth, the young universe, the literal interpretations, many people threw out everything, including the genuine wisdom that was buried inside. That is a tragedy, because what was lost was not just religion. What was lost was the inner dimension of human life, the very thing that gives external progress its meaning and direction. And that is what we are trying to recover. Not by going backwards, not by becoming uncritical or superstitious, but by going deeper, deeper than the surface arguments, deeper than the institutional corruption, deeper than the cultural packaging, to find what is actually true and actually useful. Now let's get precise, because I think one of the biggest sources of confusion in this whole conversation is that people conflate science and spirituality, or pit them against each other without clearly understanding what each one actually is and what it's for. So let me walk you through the key differences, clearly, one by one. Difference 1. Core purpose. Science aims to understand the external world. Physics, biology, chemistry. These are all looking outward, at matter, at energy, at the mechanics of the universe. The fundamental question science asks is, how does this work? Spirituality aims to understand the internal world. Traditions like Vedanta, practices like meditation, these look inward, at consciousness, at the self, at the nature of experience. The fundamental questions are, who am I? Why do I exist? These are not competing questions, they are complementary questions. One without the other gives you half a picture. Difference 2. Method of understanding. Science depends on observation of the outer world. It requires experimentation, measurement, and, critically, repeatable results. Scientific truth must be universally verifiable. Spirituality depends on inner observation, on awareness, on sustained, disciplined attention turned toward the self. The truth arrived at through meditation or deep contemplative practice is individually realized. It cannot be handed to you in a lab report. Someone else's experience of inner peace does not automatically transfer to you. You have to do the work yourself. This is often where scientists get frustrated with spirituality, because the methodology is not externally verifiable, and that frustration is legitimate. But it's worth noting that consciousness itself, your actual lived experience right now, is also not externally verifiable by anyone else. And yet, it's the most immediate reality you have. Difference 3. The nature of truth. Science deals with objective truth, facts that are the same for everyone, independent of who is observing. The laws of motion, the speed of light, the structure of DNA. These don't change based on your feelings or beliefs. Spirituality deals with subjective truth, inner experiences like peace, clarity, compassion, or what many traditions call awareness itself. These cannot be put under a microscope. But dismissing them as unreal because they're not measurable is like dismissing love because you can't weigh it. Some of the most important things in human experience are subjective. That doesn't make them less real, it makes them differently real. Difference 4. Role in humanity and empathy. Through neuroscience and psychology, science explains empathy brilliantly. It can show you the neural correlates of compassion. It can tell you how the brain processes another person's suffering. But science cannot tell you why you should act on that empathy. Spirituality fills this gap, not by giving you a rule from outside, but by facilitating a transformation from within. When you genuinely understand through inner work that the boundary between self and other is more permeable than it appears, compassion becomes natural. Not a moral obligation, not a rule, a natural response to reality as you now understand it. Difference 5. Approach to reality. Science by method is reductive. It breaks things down. It analyzes components, atoms, cells, systems, forces. This reductionism is enormously powerful for understanding mechanisms. Spirituality tends to be integrative. It looks at the whole. It perceives connection, interdependence, unity. Many spiritual traditions describe reality as a single interconnected field of consciousness. And interestingly, some branches of modern physics are arriving at descriptions of reality that sound, at minimum, remarkably compatible with this view. Both approaches reveal something true. The map depends on what you're trying to navigate. Difference 6. Their limitations. Science's limitations. It cannot fully explain consciousness. It cannot tell you what it is like to experience something. The so-called hard problem of consciousness remains unsolved and may be the deepest puzzle in all of science, and it cannot provide moral direction on its own. Knowledge of how without wisdom about why is dangerous. Spirituality's limitations. It cannot be easily verified or measured. It is susceptible to misinterpretation, manipulation, and ego-driven distortion. Without clarity and rigor, it can become vague, self-serving, or exploitative, as we've seen repeatedly throughout history. Both need the other to keep them honest. So where does this leave us? It leaves us here, at the beginning of a very important conversation. Science and spirituality are not enemies. They are not even rivals. They are two different instruments for understanding two different, but equally real, dimensions of existence. One explores the universe out there, one explores the universe in here. And a truly complete human being, a truly wise civilization, needs both. In the coming videos, we're going to go much deeper into each of these. We'll look at what modern neuroscience is discovering about consciousness and what ancient traditions said about it thousands of years ago. And we will be genuinely surprised by how close they are. We'll look at what quantum physics is revealing about the nature of reality. We'll examine the purpose of life, the definition of God across traditions and philosophies, and why, in a world moving faster than ever, the inner life may be the most urgent thing you can invest in. This is a long journey, and I'm genuinely glad you're starting it with me. If you have a question, any question, leave it in the comments. I will do my best to answer every one. And if you think I've gotten something wrong, please tell me. I would rather be corrected and understand something better than be unchallenged and stay wrong. That's how real knowledge works.